Nintendo captured lightning in a bottle with the release of the Wii. Their game show presentations not only showed off all of the new games based around the tech that they had developed, but they also left enough room for audiences to wonder what exactly could be done now that motion-controlled gaming was a possibility. The commercials for the console pushed the idea that this was unlike any other console on the market. While the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 2 appealed to people wanting to play high-quality single-player experiences, which both consoles had in spades, the Wii was always advertised as the system for top-tier multiplayer experiences. One of their leading taglines for commercials was, "We would like to play," where two Japanese businessmen would show up at the doorstep of a random suburban family and proceed to both introduce them to the Wii and play a slew of games on the console. This focus on casual, multiplayer games led to the Wii dominating the non-gamer and casual gamer demographics due to the simple-to-understand controls and the fact that anyone could play this thing, not just seasoned gamers. This push for non-gamers to adopt the system led to the Wii becoming a household staple. If you were around in the 2000s or early 2010s, it was almost a guarantee that either you or someone you knew owned a Wii. In my last video, I talked about the success of Wii Sports, how it helped sell the console, explain motion controls, and was practically the face of motion-controlled gaming for the longest time. But Wii Sports wasn't the only game released with the intent of teaching players about the Wii's new, yet unconventional control scheme. While Wii Sports focused on the broader motion sensing capabilities of the Wii Remote itself, it left out a lot of the more fine-tuned aspects of the console. So Nintendo's solution? Create a sister game to Wii Sports, the two games together showing players everything they need to know about their new console. Wii Play was developed alongside Wii Sports, while the latter's goal was to help familiarize players with the controls through sports games. Wii Play was designed to help teach players about the pointer controls, rotation detection, and simulation of depth utilizing the infrared sensor that came bundled with the Wii. Since Nintendo wanted their Wii Remote to emulate a standard TV remote to help familiarize non-gaming consumers with the controls, they made it so that the Wii's menus would be navigated by using pointer controls, where you'd point your remote towards the IR sensor and it would put a cursor on screen to represent where you're pointing. It's kind of similar to a computer mouse. While the menus were a good way to show off the majority of what these pointer controls were used for, Nintendo wanted to develop something to actually utilize this new, patented technology. Wii Play started out as a collection of technical demos used in studio and at conventions such as E3 2006 to show off the capabilities of the Wii's pointer controls. Nintendo figurehead Shigeru Miyamoto personally gave the green light to fully develop these tech demos into a game that would be released as a launch title for the Wii in Japan. Miyamoto originally wanted Wii Play to be the console's pack-in title instead of Wii Sports. This led to a lot of infighting between Miyamoto and Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aimé, who argued that Wii Sports would provide a more complete entry-level experience for players. While in the end, Wii Play didn't come included with the console, it did come bundled with the Wii Remote. This encouraged many people to go and pick the game up around the world. Since the bundle was being sold for $40 and standalone Wii Remotes were $30, this was a heck of a bargain for families to get a second Wii Remote, and a pretty decent multiplayer game that ended up becoming the 5th highest selling Wii game of all time. Wii Play is a collection of 10 minigames that you can play solo or against a friend in direct competition. Similar to Wii Sports, your player character is represented by a Mii, one that you either create for yourself or any of the default Mii characters that are stored on the console. In solo play, you're really just going for the highest score you can get, in order to obtain the coveted platinum medal. You're graded on how well you do with a series of medals, bronze being the lowest, and platinum meaning you were dang near perfect. But in co-op multiplayer, you aim to score higher than your opponent, with the winner of the game earning a point within the game's main menu. Here you'll see your me and your opponents standing in front of a very Fruitiger Arrow-esque background, while other me's walk, jog, or swim by? I'm not sure what compelled Nintendo to create this goofy menu, as opposed to how serious and professional Wii Sports' menu was. If you idle for too long, your Mii will even fall asleep as a soothing lullaby replaces the background music, until you use the Wii Remote's pointer to wake up your Mii. We're already pushing the boundary of what motion controls can accomplish, and we're not even truly in the game. Booting up the game for the first time, you'll see that you only have access to one minigame, being able to unlock more of them as you progressively play through all the minigames you've unlocked. So, what is this one minigame that introduces what Wii Play is? Have you ever played Duck Hunt? You know, the 1984 game that used the NES Zapper to shoot at ducks and other targets that would appear on screen? As groundbreaking as that game was with its light gun capabilities, it's only fitting that Nintendo pays homage to it in their next control scheme defining console. Shooting Range will have you aiming and shooting at all sorts of targets throughout a series of stages through the use of the Wii's pointer controls, starting off with balloons and eventually finding yourself shooting down UFOs, attempting to kidnap your Mii. Motion controls weren't the only thing groundbreaking about the Wii. Coming bundled with the console, the IR sensor allowed the Wii Remote to utilize pointer controls in games and menus for the console. At the time, this was crazy. Up until then, video games were primarily known to be played with controllers, likely featuring joysticks or D-pads for movement, and buttons for other in-game actions. But with Nintendo modeling their newest controller after a standard TV remote, it blew the door wide open for different control scheme possibilities and the introduction, or reintroduction, of different genres of games. Shooting Range is essentially Nintendo's version of a light gun shooter game, a genre that had laid dormant in home media for quite some time. But with a console built around motion and pointer controls, this was the perfect time to revive the genre. The goal of Shooting Range is to obviously earn points by shooting down various targets that appear and avoid the ones that'll penalize you for hitting them. But targets aren't the only source of points. There are bonuses present for shooting items in a particular order, like these colored balloons, or having super fast reflexes and hitting these clay pigeons before they've had a chance to fly too far away. There are even ducks that will occasionally fly by, offering 10 or even 20 points if you're able to hit them. While the goal in co-op play is to score higher than your opponent, in single player you're just trying to get as high a score as possible, and even a medal if you're good enough. The medaling system, at least for me, is a really good incentive to return to the game every now and then, and try and best my prior medals. As basic as Shooting Range is, it was a great way to introduce what Wii Play would be showcasing. It is the model use for pointer controls, and it gave Duck Hunt fans a little bit of hope after decades of nothing. After your first playthrough of Shooting Range, you'll unlock Find Me. In this game, you do exactly as the name suggests. Find Miis. You'll complete a series of stages where you're tasked with finding a specific Mii, or a pair that are identical, sometimes 3 or 4, or the fastest or sleepiest Mii, or just the one you like the most. The prompts are a little bit vague at times. In the stages, there's gonna be quite a number of Miis. Sometimes they're stationary, sometimes they're turning their heads so that you can't make out their facial features as easily, and sometimes they'll be floating around in the depths of space. Correctly finding the Mii or Miis will add 10 seconds to the timer that's ticking down at the bottom of the screen. When that hits 0, it's game over. Incorrectly selecting Miis will lead to a deduction of your timer, so it's a good way to de-incentivize players from just selecting every Mii on screen with the hopes of eventually finding the right one. If you're in co-op play, the time bonus for properly selecting Miis gets replaced by a points system, where the player who receives the most points wins, with penalties being issued for selecting the wrong Mii. A redeeming quality of this game mode is that the stages scale in difficulty as you complete them. In the first 10 stages, you may only need to find a single pair of Miis out of a crowd of about 12. Or there may be a Mii that's looking in the opposite direction from everybody else. But later stages will put you in a dark room, the Wii Remote's pointer being the only source of light to find whoever you need to. Or the crowd may jump up from a handful to a seemingly infinite number of Miis who are trying their hardest to prevent you from properly identifying their defining features. While this may be a unique game mode, having to use the pointer controls to select specific Miis, there's not a lot of variety in the prompts or stages that you may face. There's only 6 locations: city, bleachers, water, escalators, dark, and space, and the prompts don't really change up all that much. When you go through the first 20 stages or so, you kind of know what's going to be expected of you. It would have been so much cooler if after stage 30 or 40 or something, the game got really weird with its stages and prompts. Like, what if you had to find a Mii that looked exactly like yours, but maybe the eyes were different, or maybe they were wearing glasses when they weren't originally? Or what if all the Miis were on a train and you had to select the correct one as they all got off? It'd even be neat to have to find the Mii that's wearing the favorite color of the Mii you've selected. The novelty of this game mode wears off quickly. Once you've seen all the stages and prompts, there's nothing that'll really surprise or impress you. Sure, it'll challenge you having to find 4 matching Miis instead of 2, but it's the same thing every stage. It feels wrong to even call this a game. After a while, it feels a little bit more like a chore. I must say, this is not the best follow-up to a minigame that set the bar for what you'll be playing in Wii Play. After that train wreck, I sure hope there's something worthwhile as the third game mode in Wii Play. The first game to introduce one of the other focuses of Wii Play is table tennis. Remember how I mentioned that Wii Play was used to show off the simulation of depth through the use of the Wii Remote? Well, this is the first game mode where that's somewhat important. In table tennis, you're just rallying against the computer, aiming to get a score of 200 for the platinum medal. While in the beginning it's somewhat easy, as you rack up more rallies, the computer will hit the ball faster to different areas of the table, forcing you to quickly move your Wii Remote all over the place if you have any hope of keeping the rally alive. While an incredibly simple game mode, it has some neat details that helps boost its memorability. Being the first game to utilize the simulation of depth means that you can move the paddle in all 4 directions: forward, back, left and right. And in co-op play, moving it forwards or back is important if you want to put some strength into your hits. You'll also find that the longer a rally goes on, the more Miis come over to spectate, starting off at 1 and gaining 1 Mii per every 10 rallies. If you do end up reaching 200, which to me has always been impossible due to how fast everything's moving, you'll have a whole swarm of Miis watching you. This isn't as much the sport of table tennis as much as it is just a rallying minigame. Nintendo would later improve upon their table tennis game mode in Wii Sports Resort. Here, you're actually playing against a computer opponent, and things such as hit strength and rotation are included thanks to the Wii Motion Plus accessory and how it does a better job at detecting more finite movements that wouldn't have been possible through the use of the base Wii Remote in Wii Play. Although this game mode is nice, it's never going to be what people first think of when you mention table tennis on the Wii. But this helped set a precedent for what the game would look like in Wii Sports Resort, all while showing off how the Wii can accurately sense depth by moving the Wii Remote forwards or by pulling it back. Wii Play's fourth game mode returns back to primarily showcasing the remote's pointer functionality. But it's also the first game where the rotation of your Wii Remote is essential. In Pose Me, you control your Mii by moving them around the screen using pointer controls. You'll also need to rotate the remote to turn your Mii in order for them to fit into these bubbles. In this game, it's your goal to pop the bubbles, and earn points by changing your Mii's pose and orientation in order to pop the bubbles that fall towards the bottom of the screen. If a bubble falls below this super squiggly line, you lose out on the potential points from every bubble on screen as they all pop. While early rounds will only have you in one pose with bubbles that fall rather slowly, later rounds will require you to quickly switch poses, turn your Wii Remote upside down, and move super quickly since these bubbles fall fast. There will be moments where you're praying for a rainbow bubble to freeze everything on screen and allow you to catch up to the daunting number of bubbles on screen. There are 15 total levels, with each of them having an odd background. Sometimes it's an exotic bird, or a flower. I really don't know why Nintendo chose to do this. It'd be interesting if the background photos instead came from your console's photo channel. That'd be something that could provide a few laughs. This might be the most funny equals random game mode in the entirety of Wii Play, and that's okay. A minigame collection like this always requires at least one of these types of games, and while its pointer control capabilities are about as standard as any of the other games you'll come across, Pose Me does a really good job of showing off how well the Wii Remote detects rotation. With our fifth game, we are now just over halfway through every game mode Wii Play has to offer. So what do we have to introduce us to the back half of this game? Laser Hockey changes the control scheme up just a little bit. Rather than pointing your Wii Remote at the screen to move your mallet around the tabletop, you need to hold your Wii Remote vertically, meaning this game solely shows off the rotation direction and accelerometer of the Wii Remote. You can move the mallet by physically moving your Wii Remote left and right, and turning the mallet by doing the same with your Wii Remote. That's about all the novelty that this game mode has to offer. It does an excellent job showing off how Wii games don't necessarily require the use of buttons, joysticks, or even pointer controls. But it's a bit too conceptually similar to table tennis, since you're going up against an opponent, be them real or a computer, and you're attempting to score the most amount of points. Thinking of game modes that could have better shown off this unique control scheme relying solely on rotation and the accelerometer, had Nintendo designed a game mode that was a spiritual successor to Kuro Kuro Kururin, where you have to navigate a stick through a maze by constantly rotating and physically moving the Wii Remote, would have been so interesting. Especially with the different ways Nintendo could show off the intricacies of this control scheme through increasingly difficult stages. But as it stands right now, Laser Hockey is just too similar of a game mode to table tennis for it to be memorable for me. But to be fair, it does look like it inspired the hit mobile game Glow Hockey. Billiards is the next game mode offer, and I would argue it's the most true to form game present in Wii Play. In Billiards, your goal is to knock each one of the numbered balls into the pocket in sequential order by using the numberless cue ball, with your Mii's face on it. For every hit, you are required to hit the next numbered ball, starting off at 1, then 2, and ending with the ball labeled 9, with each number indicating the amount of points you'll receive by sinking the ball. To hit the cue ball, the game actually fully utilizes the simulation of depth feature on the Wii Remote. All you gotta do is pull the Wii Remote back and move it forward similar to how you would with an actual pool cue. You're even able to put certain spins on the cue ball by pointing the Wii Remote's cursor to help prevent it from falling into a pocket, which would result in a 3-point penalty. Getting a platinum medal in this game is difficult. You need to score 60 or more points in order to obtain it. So that means you're gonna need to be better than perfect. It's not enough to only hit the cue ball once per ball on the table. You're going to need to sink multiple balls per hit in order to hit the cue ball the least amount of times possible. It's insane to think that the first ever perfect game was achieved this year through the use of a software that brute forced thousands of potential breaks in order to find the one that would result in all 9 numbered balls falling. There's actually an insane amount of lore behind the way that the billiards game mode is designed and how it's eluded speedrunners for decades. So if you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend this video by Cindefusic, who's documented everything they uncovered by digging into the game's code. While it is a shame that the billiards game mode doesn't extend to the standard 8-ball pool game whenever you're playing in 2-player mode, I always enjoy coming back to play billiards. It is truly a timeless minigame thanks to its easy to understand controls, its wonderful atmosphere, and the audience that'll cheer you on every time you sink a ball. After billiards, you unlock another one of Wii Play's staple game modes, fishing. You know it's a good game whenever it has a fishing minigame included. Here, you're using the Wii's motion controls, pointer controls, and simulation of depth to move your fishing rod all around the tiny pond on screen, and pull up fish by yanking the Wii remote up out of the water. Each fish you see has a total point value associated with it, with there being certain bonuses for catching specific types of fish whenever their prompt is on screen. There are the ones you always want to avoid, like the small fries who take away 50 points. But then there are rare fish like the mystery fish and king of the pond, who you will get rewarded handsomely for catching, especially when they're the fish who will grant you the bonus. What makes this game stand out the most, other than blending together 3 of the unique motion control aspects of the Wii remote instead of sticking to 1 or 2 like several other games do, is that the art style differs drastically to the one presented in every other facet of Wii Play. In other games, there's this Frutiger Arrow, slightly glossy yet a little bit muted art style, with colors that are somewhat toned down and easy on the eyes. Fishing has an art style that many have equated to being similar to Yoshi's Touch and Go for the Nintendo DS, where the fish are all two-dimensional and amateurly drawn with a lack of detail, making the whole game look as if it's been ripped straight from a children's book. The Wii sensor isn't the best at reading all the movements you may be making in this game mode. But despite this, I always have a fun time. Like billiards, I can see myself coming back to this game mode, and even working to achieve the Platinum Medal, requiring 2,600 points. So you'll need to take advantage of every bonus and pull these fish up quickly. The penultimate game mode in Nintendo's 3rd ever newly developed Wii game is Charge. In this game, your Mii is riding on top of a cow, with the goal of going as fast as you can to knock over all these scarecrows that are in your way. What's unique about this game mode is that you hold the Wii remote on its side, and control your movement solely through the rotation of the Wii remote. You turn it forward to get the cow to start running, lean it back to slow down, turn left and right to obviously go left and right, and shake the Wii remote up in order to jump over any of these barriers that are in your way. I've never really seen this game mode as being difficult to score high in as some of the others. The most challenging aspect comes when there are scarecrows lined up on opposite sides of the track, requiring you to turn harshly, all while trying to maintain your speed for the points granted by how much time is left on the clock. As interesting as this control scheme may be, there are some issues in the way that it detects whether you twist the Wii remote forward or back. In my time playing this game, there were several notable moments where I'd be attempting to move the cow forward by turning the Wii remote forward, but it wouldn't register it until I was dang near holding the remote upside down. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first Nintendo-developed game released for the Wii, where you're holding the Wii remote sideways and twisting and turning it for movement controls. Of course, the more popular game with this control scheme would be Mario Kart Wii, released nearly a year and a half later. But for what the game mode sets out to be, it's fun to play in short bursts, because once you end up getting the Platinum Medal, there's not really a reason to return to it since it's quite easy to rack up a high score on. Wii Play's final game mode, also serves as its most difficult, and the one that most people come back to play years later. Tanks serves as the closing game for Wii Play, and has a reputation for being quite difficult for something present in a minigame collection. The only aspect of the Wii Remote that Tanks really showcases is the pointer functionality, since you use either the D-pad or nunchuck for directional controls in game. In this game, you take control of a tiny little toy tank inside of a little arena built out of wooden blocks, with the goal of eliminating all of the other toy tanks present. While the first few stages may be easy, only containing stationary tanks that are easy to hit, later stages introduce all sorts of enemy tanks that you'll need to take care of. Some are really fast, with the sole purpose of dropping mines to get you when you least expect it. Others have shots that can ricochet off the walls twice. With a total of 100 missions in this game mode, the endless combination of tanks you'll encounter helps provide so much of a unique challenge that isn't present anywhere else in Wii Play. This game gets difficult quickly, and I'm a little ashamed to admit that I haven't even earned the gold medal yet, earned by completing mission 30 and eliminating 84 enemy tanks. If Nintendo were to make a new IP built off of the gameplay loop present in Wii Play Tanks, I genuinely don't see a reason why it wouldn't succeed. This game mode varies so heavily from any other in Wii Play that it kind of doesn't feel like it's from the same game. It's that good. And with Tanks having some of the most unique dynamic music, with different instruments being added or removed in the background depending on the number and type of enemy tanks on the battlefield, Nintendo definitely put more effort into this game mode than the others, and it's an excellent way to end off your Wii Play journey. So now that you've gone through and unlocked all the modes that this game has to offer, what now? Well, like I've been mentioning, there is a medal system based on how well you perform in these games, so you could always go for the platinum medals. Or maybe you could get a friend and have a little head-to-head competition going through every one of these games. Wii Play was in a unique situation. These games are clearly all fun, but only in short bursts. Unlike its partner game Wii Sports, which is endlessly replayable. Many critics noted this upon the game's release, saying that it's fun, but not nearly as fun as Wii Sports. That's one of the main reasons I feel this game hasn't had the same lasting impact as some of the other Wii Series games. Wii Sports introduced the motion controls, Wii Fit the balance board and all the possibilities with that. Wii Sports Resort is just an all-around better Wii Sports, providing players the opportunity to explore a fleshed-out Woohoo Island. And Wii Play is always going to be looked at as the inferior Wii Series game released in 2006. But to be fair, it is really hard to go up against Wii Sports. Wii Play's impact lasts in the bundle that it was released in, since so many people bought it as opposed to buying a $30 Wii Remote. You might as well spend the extra $10 to get a decent game out of it. There is a bit of hope for Wii Play, however. The game has developed quite the active speedrunning community, with people going so far as to decompile the game to learn all about its intricate details and get better and better times. It's a shame that Wii Play ended up being just a fleshed out collection of tech demos Nintendo used to display certain aspects of the Wii Remote's controls. But given the control schemes that developers were given in creating these games, I think they did a pretty good job with what they were given. While I may not find myself coming back to Wii Play anytime soon, its existence as a Wii Series game isn't going to be leaving my consciousness, mostly due to all of the great music found throughout the game. If you can find a cheap secondhand copy of Wii Play, I do recommend picking it up, since it's a solid little minigame collection, and if you have friends or family to play it with, that can help make things even better. Or maybe if you enjoy a challenge, going for the platinum medals may be right up your alley. If you've enjoyed hearing me babble on about this near 18-year-old game, then it'd mean a lot to me if you'd like and subscribe. I've already gotten through the first 2 games of the Wii series, and if those games are something that you're into, stick around because I'll be covering Wii Fit next. thank you all so much for watching, and to prep for my next video, I need to spend some time on the Wii balance board.